Now, the Nassib border crossing between Jordan and Syria has officially reopened after having been shut for well over 3 years. Now, though it will not open to normal traffic immediately, the Syrian government, remember, had retaken the area around the border crossing with Jordan at Nassib in July earlier this year during a week-long Russian-backed offensive to drive rebels from their stronghold in southwest Syria. Now, the closure of the Nassib crossing in 2015 cut a crucial transit route for hundreds of trucks a day transporting goods between Turkey and the Gulf in the multi-billion-dollar annual trade. Now, since then, Syria's only normally operating frontier crossing has been with Lebanon, which itself has no other functioning land borders. Now, the frontier with Turkey is still closed into Syrian government-held areas and open only into the territory that is controlled by the rebels. Meanwhile, the Syrian and the Iraqi foreign ministers are discussing ways to try and accelerate efforts to reopen the border between their respective countries. The Nassib border crossing plays a crucial role in the transit of goods between the countries of Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, Turkey, and also the countries of the Persian Gulf. All right, now for more on this, we are joined in by our West Asia Bureau Chief Daniel Pagani, who is presently at the Nassib border crossing. Thank you very much indeed, Daniel, for joining us. Now, the question that, of course, I would like to ask you is, now, this border crossing was in fact shut for 3 years because of the civil war, but now it has opened. So what is the significance of this border reopening?
Behind me, you can see the Jordan border, that's how it is called in Jordan, or the Nassib border, which is how they call it on the Syrian side. This is an extremely important border. It is important for Syria because it's the only border through which currently goods could transit in order to reach all the Gulf countries. These will help Syria get back on track when it comes to the economy. It will also help Jordan, which has suffered extremely because of the war. In fact, all goods has become more and more expensive. Syria used to be the largest market for Jordanians selling there, but also for all the importers. It is also very important for the region. Lebanon, in fact, will benefit from the opening of this border, transiting its own goods from Jordan and then down to the Arabian countries. As of now, Lebanon can only transit some of its goods into Syria, but has no other crossing border that they can use.
And also, Daniel, considering the fact that the border has now been reopened between Syria and Jordan, is this a sign that the Syrian war is slowly but surely coming to an end?
The reopening of this border, which was closed in 2015 after clashes erupted in the southern part of Syria, especially in the province of Daraa, is not only business, of course. Yes, this is a sign of the Syrian war slowly winding down. There are also talks to reopen other borders. Israel is open to the possibility sooner or later to reopen the crossing with Syria, and also Iraq is currently talking with the Syrian government in order to reopen its own border. Yes, so the Syrian crisis is slowly coming to an end. When borders start to reopen, even if only for commercial purposes, it means that the frontiers are considered safe enough for trucks and civilians, maybe in the second phase, to cross and get back into the country.
And also, Daniel, what is the scene like at the other borders which Syria shares with the other countries in the neighborhood?
There are currently talks between government at the institutional level in order to see what can be done for all the other crossing points. The northern crossing points are perhaps the most difficult to manage with. Turkey has open borders only with the so-called rebel or opposition-held areas, which doesn't help the Syrian government because actually the trucks belonging to Syrian government companies or whoever is dealing within the government business environment cannot transit safely over there. Also, the borders with Iraq are currently not open. They're working on it. The two governments are holding talks in these days, in these very days, in order to understand when and if it will be possible to open. The opening of the Jordan border, or the Nassib border as it is called on the Syrian side, is the fundamental opening of a border which connects Syria to the southern part of the Middle East, which means the rich Arabian Gulf countries where having business is extremely important for any state in the region.
And also, Daniel, very quickly, is this border opening just meant for commercial transport of goods, or has regular traffic also been opened with this border at this point of time?
As of now, this is an official opening of the border. Still, there are agreements to be finalized in order to understand how to allow transit in and how to allow Syrian trucks to come into Jordan. No, civilians will not be allowed to travel from day one. That's not the case currently. This is meant to be an opening majorly for commercial purposes, which is anyway very important. Remember that this border has been closed in 2015 and it has been closed ever since. So even reopening it for commercial purposes, it's really a huge event.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Daniel Pagani, for joining us from the Nassib border between Syria and Jordan and getting us the latest on that story.